our channel Knowledge Hub. Friends, subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for the latest update. आज हम डेटा वेयर हाउस एंड डेटा माइनिंग की क्लास करने वाले हैं, जो कि क्लास नंबर 13 है. ऑलरेडी हम 12 क्लासेस कर चुके हैं. दैट व्हाट वी हैड डिस्कस्ड अबाउट इट, विच इज़ योर यूनिट 1 वी हैड completed, and we have completed the unit 2 as well, and we had completed unit 3 as well as we had completed unit 4 as well. And in the same cases, if I'm talking about it, so that what we had covered up is your that is in the same guide we'll talk about it, and that we had completed your unit. We will be completing unit 5 soon in this class. So first of all, it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe our channel, so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. In unit 5, the name of the unit is your data visualization and overall perspective here. So here that what we have to discuss is your what are spatial rules, and also explain spatial association rule here. So in the same cases, we'll go ahead here. That is your spatial rules, spatial association rule as well. That will discussed here. In the same cases, for this that what we have to discuss, that the spatial rules can be created that describe the relationship between and structure of spatial objects. There are the three types of the rules in the spatial data mining. The first rule we have is your, that is in the terms of that is your characteristic rule. First rule is characteristic rule. In characteristic rule, that it describes the data. The second we have discriminant rule. In discriminant rule, it explains the difference between different classes of the data. The third we have is your association rule. In association rule, that is their implication of one set of the data by the another here. Now we'll discuss, as I told you, about the spatial association rule here. In this, they are the association rules that describe about the spatial data objects, and they contain the few spatial predicates as well, and the few partial predicates to be are as to be follows here, and that what we'll discuss in under the spatial rule. That is, the first is your non-spatial attendants and the spatial consequent. The second is your spatial attendants and non-partial consequent, and the third is your spatial antecedents and spatial consequents as well. So these were the three few spatial predicates that what we have to gone through with that. And it is assumed that the data mining query is in input, that the query contains the selection information that is used to retrieve the object from the database that are of interest, and the topological predicates defining the spatial relationships of the interest that are also input. And using these predicates like P, an initial table inbuilt CP that identifies which pair of objects satisfies P at a course level, and that input minimum support that are actually a set of support value that to be at different levels in processing, which is of S of 1, that is a support level that to be used at a course of filtering level. And after the filtering, the pairs of the object that satisfies the course predicates and that are counted to see if their air support is above the minimum, and in effect that this frequent course predicate, that is FCP database, is a set of a large one item set, and that the predicates in FCP are then examine to find the frequent predicate at a fine level, which is FFP as well. And the last step, expand these frequent predicates of size 1 to all the arbitrary predicate sizes and then generate the rules as with traditional association rule. And this is performed similarly to a priori, and by finding the FCR, which is your the first the number of the object that to be examined is to be reduced as the last step as well. We are talking about the algorithm in the terms of it, which is your D, that is the data including the spatial and non-spatial attribute as well. And in the same cases, the C has been representing the concept hierarchies, and small s will be representing the minimum support for levels, and the A is your confidence, and of course the small q is your query to retrieve the interested object, and the capital P is topological predicate as of interest as well. The output is you'll find it out as R, and that is the spatial association rule. In the spatial association rule algorithm, where D dash is equals to small q by that is of D, and that is CP is built by applying the coarse predicate version of P to D dash, and that is your CP consists of the set of the coarse predicates satisfied by the pairs of objects in D dash as well. Where in the same cases we can say that that to determine the set of frequent coarse predicates, that is FCP, by finding out the coarse predicate that satisfies S, and find the set of the frequent fine predicates, that is FFP, from FCP, that find R by finding all frequent fine predicates and then generating the rules as well. This algorithm that works in a similar manner to the a priori algorithm in a large predicate set that are determined as well. So now we'll go ahead with the detailed about it, and that what we have to discuss about, which is the explained spatial decision tree algorithm. So in the same cases we'll discuss about the spatial decision tree algorithm. So spatial decision tree algorithm, will talk about it, and that is one spatial classification approach builds a decision tree using a two-step process similar to that used for the association rule. And for the decision tree that creation, that the most relevant predicates are first found, and it is hoped that this process will create a smaller and a more accurate decision tree as well. Where in the same cases we'll go ahead with a further one, and that what we have to discuss here, and that is in the terms of it, and that what even though we'll have to consider about it. Like for the construct the tree, that it is assumed that each sample that object has an associated with its set of generalized that is your generalized predicates that it satisfies, and the number of objects that are counted and then used to calculate the information that gain as is done in ID3, and the resulting algorithm to generate the decision trees to be as shown in the algorithm. Like input is the D and C, and the capital D is representing the data, that including the spatial and non-spatial attribute, and capital C, that is a concept hierarchy. The output it will be finding out in the terms of T, that is your binary decision tree, and where the spatial decision tree algorithm is to be state that find a sample S of the data from the D with a known classification and identify the best predicate P to use the classification, that to determine the best buffer size and shape, and of course using P and C that generalizes the predicate for each buffer, build binary tree using the generalized predicate and ID3 as well. Now we'll go ahead with the other discussion, that is to explain SD, which is your Clarence algorithm. So let's go ahead here. Clarence algorithm. So here in the same cases with this representing that the spatial dominant, which is Clarence, assumes that the items to be clustered contained both here, that is your both spatial and non-spatial component. It first cluster that the spatial component using the Clarence, and then examines the non-spatial attribute within each cluster to derive a description of the cluster. And the algorithm that outlines the SD Clarence, that algorithm, note that it is a combination of Clarence and of course the DBlearn, and that the spatial dominant algorithm. And it also assumes that in the first step an initial filtering of the data using a relevance based on the non-spatial data is to be performed. Any clustering algorithm that could be used in this place of the place of Clarence in the algorithm, and in the algorithm we show that the number of the desired clusters is input. In contrast to SD Clarence, that non-spatial dominant Clarence, and that is NSD, which is your Clarence here. So first look at the non-spatial attribute by performing a generalizations on these attribute and a set of representative tuples, and one representing the each cluster that can be found, and then the algorithm that determined that which spatial objects go with which representative tuple to finish the clustering process. And the algorithm that will be having as an input that we have a D input, that is a data to be clustered, and of course the small k that representing the number of the desired set at the lowest level, and the output is your capital K, which is the set of clusters. And the SD Clarence algorithm that is find set of the tuples that satisfies the selection criteria, and as well as the D dash, which select the tuple from the D that is based on the non-spatial selection. The criteria is that we have to apply for the Clarence to the D dash based on the spatial attribute, that is your K Clarence D dash, and that is perform attribute generalization, and for each where K belongs to capital K, that do, and then of course apply DBlearn to the non-spatial attribute in a K as well. That has been representing this algorithm here. Let's go ahead with another one, which is to explain DB classed, that is your DBCLAST algorithm. So let's go ahead to discuss about it. So DB classed algorithm, that we will have to talk about it, where DB classed is an algorithm which is based on the DB scan, and the DB classed which is the full form of the DB class. First of all, I will tell you about that. Distribution based clustering of large spatial database. I will write it on so that you will be getting to know. Distribution based clustering of large spatial databases. So here it assumes that the item within a cluster that are uniformly distributed and points outside the clusters as well, and elements that are added to a cluster as long as the nearest neighbor distance that set fits to the uniform distribution assumption, and candidate elements that are determined and then are added that to the current cluster if this satisfies membership criteria. Candidate elements are determined by executing a region and that is query using a circle of the radius m centered around a point P, and that was just in the same cases that was just added to the clusters. And here in the same cases where m is chosen based and on the following formula, so that has been representing by the formula has been representing here, which is m greater to root, that is a upon pi 1 minus 1 upon n 1 upon n. And here that n is the number of the points in the clusters and a is its area, and the added point then become new candidate. And since the x square test usually requires at least 30 elements, and the authors assume that 29 neighboring points are initially added to each cluster, and the last step expands to a cluster based on the expected distribution of the nearest neighbor distance act that is set of C and using the candidate found in C as well, where in the same cases that using the candidate found in C, that each candidate is added one at a time to C, and the distribution of the nearest neighbor distance set would be in the form of will be that is to estimate, and if it still has a desired distribution, that the point of the neighborhood of the candidate that are added to the set of the candidate as well. Otherwise, the candidate is removed from C and the process continues until C is empty and the point is neighborhood of the given point that are determined based on the radius value stated above. Now we'll go ahead with the algorithm here as well. So here we'll have an algorithm here. So algo for this, that the algorithm is the input has been given as a capital D, which is just partial object that to be clustered, and the output will get is K, that is a set of clusters, and the DB class algorithm will be is your small k equals to 0, which is the initially there are no clusters, and small c is equals to 5, that is the initializes the set of the candidate that to be empty for each point P in D do, and if P is not a cluster, then create a new cluster C and put P in C and add neighboring point of P to C, and for each point Q and C that do and add the points in the neighboring of neighborhood of Q that have not been proceeded to C, and then we'll have to expand it. Now we'll go ahead with the detailed about it, which is write a short note on a bang, approximations and aggregation proximity. So that we'll discuss here in the detail. For that, here with the that DB the algorithm we talk about it, that is the input, which is the D, which is this partial object that to be clustered, and the output is a K, that is a set of clusters as well, and in the DB class as we had talked about it. Now we'll go ahead, as I told you about it, to discuss about the bang, approximation and aggregate proximity, and that I will go ahead with the detailed as well. And so let's go ahead with the here, that is your bang. In the terms of the bang here, that is that the bang technique uses a grid structure that is similar to the KD tree, and it distributes the items in the order or to adapt more dense area which contain large number of smaller grids, and while less dense areas that have a few large ones. The grids are then sorted, that is based on their density, and which is the number of the items in the grid divided by its area. And after that, the grids will be the greatest density that are selected as the centers of the cluster. The second will be having is approximation. In the term of the approximations here, and that I will talk about it. And the approximation, that the approximation is an approach that can be used to identify the characteristics of clusters, and this is achieved by finding the features that are close to the clusters as well, where the cluster that can be differentiated based on the features unique to them as well. Now we'll go ahead with the third one, which is aggregate proximity. In the term of the aggregate proximity here, that it is defined as a measure of how close a cluster is to a feature, and that is, this is not a measure of the distance from the cluster boundary, but rather to the point in the clusters. Sometimes data structures such as R tree, that is RD tree, it cannot be used to efficiently find these aggregate proximity relationship. The aggregate proximity distance that may be measured by the sum of the distances to all the points in the cluster. The aggregate proximity relationship finds the k closest feature to a cluster, and the CRH algorithm that has been proposed to identify these relationships, where C stands for encompassing the circle, and R is the isosthetic rectangle, and of course H is your convex hull here. In the same cases, the other will talk about it, which is your isothermic rectangle, encompassing circle, and the convex hull. So that we'll discuss here in the detail. Which is isosthetic rectangle. In isothetic rectangle here, that here MBR, that containing a set of points where the sides of the rectangle are parallel to the coordinate axis. The second we have, it's encompassing circle. In encompassing circle, the circle that contains a set of points found by using the diagonal of isothetic rectangle as its diameter. The third we have is convex hull. In convex hull, the minimum boundary convex shape that containing a set of tuples here. So where circle, rectangle, and convex hull, and of course that the that has been representing in the different CRH polygons here. So we'll go ahead to discuss about another thing, that is the temporal mining in a detail. That is, in the temporal mining, what it stands for, that it can be defined as a step in a process of knowledge discovery in a temporal, and in the same cases that the temporal and database, and it performs the following tasks as well, that is data characterization, clustering, classification, association, series, pattern analysis, and prediction and trend analysis as well. In the same cases that we'll discuss about the Markov model as well. That is, the Markov model have been used in the various applications such as speech recognition, natural language processing, etc. An extension to the Markov model is a hidden Markov model, and that Markov model is a directed graph, which is a V comma A, and a V stands for the states, and the area showing the transition between states as well. And in the time series, which is the time series is a set of attribute value over a period of time as well. Sequences is, the sequence is an ordered list of an item set, and the length of the sequence is the sum of the cardinalities of all the item sets in the sequence, and that as spade has been starts for the sequential pattern discovery, that is you are using the equivalence, and it is an algorithm that identifies the pattern by traversing as well. So that we'll discuss in a detail. So first we'll go ahead with the detail about it, which is your temporal mining. Temporal data mining is a single step in the process of knowledge discovery in a temporal databases that enumerates structures over the temporal data, and the algorithm that enumerates the temporal pattern that from or fit model to, and the temporal data is the temporal data mining algorithm. Temporal data mining is concerned with the analysis of the temporal data, and for finding out temporal pattern and irregularities is a set of temporal data as well. It also allows the possibilities of the computer-driven automatic explorations of the data. Temporal data mining two tasks that we have here, and that is the data characterizations and comparisons, clustering analysis, classification, association rule, pattern analysis, predictions, and the trend analysis. In the temporal data mining, that has led to a new way of interacting with a temporal database, specifying the queries at much more abstract level than, say, the temporal structure query language permisses, and that permits it also facilitate the data exploration for the problem that due to the multiple and a multidimensionality here. Now we'll discuss about in a detail with the another one, which is to explain the defined Markov model here. In the terms of the Markov model here, that is a Markov model which is an is a directed V comma A, that with the vertices representing their state, which is where V is equals to V1, V2, V3 with till Vn, and of course that an arcs, that is A stands for I comma J, which is V1, Vj, that belongs to V as well, that's showing the transitions between the states and transiting with the Vj. So we'll go ahead with a simple Markov model here that would be represented in the form of show here, and that will be so here this is your start 0 0.5, 0 0.2, 0 0.7, this is your 0 0.6, and this is your 0 0.1, and it returns is 0 0.8, this is 0 0.7, this is 1. So this goes on in a simple Markov model. The Markov model that have been used in the various applications, speech recognition and the natural language processing, and some common application as well. A major property of a Markov model is the Markov property, which states that given the current state, that the transition probability is an independent of any previous state. Thus, is a memory-less as well. An extension of to that also satisfies the Markov property in a hidden Markov model. And a major difference between the and HHM, that in the fact that the states and then HHM that need not correspond to the observable state, and HHM model is a process that produces as output as a sequence of observable symbol, and as in and the HHM that consists of the set of states with the transition probability, and each HHM has the following additional component, where the initial state distribution that used to determine the starting state to the time 0 v0, and each r I comma j that is labeled with the probability of pi comma j of transiting from v1 to vf, and this value is spaced and given a set of the possible observation which is 0, which is a 0 1 0 2 0 O1, O2, O3, and that each states of that contain the set of probability for each observation of P of I1, I2, I3 till In, and where the algorithm that assumes that the sequence of the observation is produced. So the variable t represents the time here, and in the same references the input will be taken as capital H, which is SHM, and the output is that S equals to Si1, I2, S2, that Sm minus 1, and that is the output sequence, and HHM's observable sequence algorithm where we have is your t equals to 0 as well. Where in the same cases we'll talk about it, and that what we have to talk about it, that is based on initial state distribution that determined that repeat and output x I, that based on the observable observation probabilities, and of course that choose v I comma t I1 I plus 1, that based on the transition probability is as vi. So where t equals to t plus 1 and unit t equals to k, so that has been representing in the form of like where in the same just had 1 h. So this is your 0 1 sorry 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is your 0.8, and it will go towards it, that is 0.8, and it will be also the 0.8 return towards it, that is also 0.8 here. So here we can say that with reference towards it, this is a simple hidden Markov model where we can say that the pH is your 0.8 for this side, because it's both having 0.8, and the pH for this, that is 0.3 and 0.7 as well. So problems in the HHM when determining what HHM model that actually look like. So the first we'll discuss about the size. In the term of the size here, that determines the number of the states is not obvious, and they need not to be associated with the real world observable events as well. And the second is your transition probabilities. In transition probabilities, that to determining what the transition probabilities are is difficult, and that domain experts are learning algorithm that can be used to determine the probabilities, much as is done with NNs here. And the third we have is your hidden observation probability as well. Hidden observation probabilities. So in this, that as with the transition probability, these probabilities that can be learned, so there are the three basic IHHM problems as well. The first problem is that given a sequence of the observed element and an HHM, what is the probability that the HHM actually produce the sequence? And note that this is associated with the recognition problem, and if the probability is low, then this model probably did not produce it, and it as a result that the system that is modeled by HMM probably did not produce it. And given a sequence, the second is that given a sequence of the observed value and an HHM, what is the most likely state sequence that produces this sequence? The third is that how can the model the parameter transition probabilities, observation probabilities, and a starting state distribution that be improved. And this problem is similar to that of how learning is accomplished for NNN here. Now we'll discuss about the another one to discuss about define time series and explain time series analysis. So we'll discuss about time series. So here in the time series, that is time series is a set of an attribute value over a period of time, and given an attribute A, that a time series is a set of values, and which is your T1, A1, T1, T2, A2, and T2, Tn, Tan. That here there are n times values, and for each of the corresponding value of A as well. In data mining application for a time series, that includes determining the similarity between the two different time series and predicting the future value for an attribute that given an item series of the known values as well. So time series analysis, if I'm talking about that, the time series analysis that may be viewed as a determining the pattern in the data and predicting the future values. So detected pattern consists of the first we have is the trends. In the trends, that a trend can be viewed as a systematic that your non-repeating changes to the attribute value over a time. The second we have your cycles. In cycles, the observed behavior is cyclic. Third is your seasonal. In seasonal, that is the detected pattern that may be based on the time of years or month or day as well. The fourth we have is your, which is outlier. In outliers, in the pattern detection technique that may be needed to remove to or reduce the impact of outlier as well. Now we'll discuss about moreover the things that what do you mean by a trend analysis here. So that what we have to discuss here in the detail. In the trend analysis, that is the another heading here. In the trend analysis, that there are the various techniques which can be used to detect the trends in item series, and something is an approach that is used to remove the non-systematic behavior that found in time series, and smoothing usually takes the form of finding moving average of attribute values, and given a window in time around a particular time point, the local average of all attribute value is used instead of specific value and actually found at this point. The median value as opposed to the mean value normally is used because it is less sensitive to outliers. And the process, of course, that the smoothing is used to filter out noise and outliers. It also can be used to predict the future values because the resulting data are easier to fit to be known function, which is linear, logarithmic, and exponential, etc. In the same cases, to detecting the seasonal pattern in time series data, that is more difficult, and one approach is to detect the correlation between the attributes at evenly spaced intervals. For example, a correlation that may be found between the every 12th value in the monthly sales data and the time differences between are the related items is to be referred to as the lag, and with the sales data that the lag is 12, then the correlation function that can be generated to determine the correlation between the data values at a different lag interval, and a that is your correlogram that graphically shows the autocorrelation value for a different lag values as well. And in the same cases, the covariance measure that how two variables changes the together, and it can be used on the basis for determining the relationship between either the two time series or the seasonal trends in one time series here. And the autocorrelation coefficient, which is R of k, that measures the correlation and that between the time series value and a certain distance, that is lag k, apart, and several different approaches have been used to autocorrelation. Positive values indicates that both the variable increases together, while negative values indicate that one increases and the other decreases, and a value that close to the zero indicates that there is a little correlation between the two variables. And one standard formula to measure the correlation is the correlation coefficient, or sometimes called Pearson's here. So here with the same cases, given the two time of the series x and y with that means x bar and y bar, and each with the elements that the formula for r we have here, xi minus x bar, yi minus y bar, upon under root sigma xi minus x square sigma yi minus y bar square. So here for applying this to find the correlation coefficient with the lag of here, that is your k, and rk on the time of the series, where x is your x1 x2 till xn, is a straightforward, and the first time series, that is your x dash x1 x2 x3 till that is for x minus 1, and while the second time series is your x double dash, which is xk plus 1 xk plus 2 till xn here. So now we'll discuss about the sequence here, that the question has been asked is your explain sequence. In the term of the sequence here, that a sequence is an ordered list of items set where let I equals to I1 I2 till In, and but that be a set of an item, and a sequence S is S1 S2 till Sn, where S belongs to I, and a sequence of is sometimes viewed as an ordered list of attribute value from any domain, and the individual members of the sequence are sometimes viewed to be the set of items from some underlying domain. And one common difference is that the sequence may not have explicit relationships with time, and the length of the sequence is the sum of the cardinalities of all item sets in the sequence. And a subsequence of a given sequence is one that can be obtained by removing some items here, and that any resulting empty item set from the original sequence, where I equals to I1 I2 till IM, and to a M set of item set, and one sequence T, that is your U1 U2 till UM here, and that is the sequence of the another one. And of course as such that we'll talk about the support. So here, given a set of the customers and the transaction for each customer, that the support of a sequence as of S is a percentage of a total customer sequence contained as, and confidence, that is your alpha, has been representing. So here for a sequence of association rule, that S tends to T is the ratio of the number of the customer that contain both sequence S and T number that contained S here. What do you mean by a spade? In the terms of what you would mean by spade here, the spade, a full form of spade, we have sequential, pattern, discovery using equivalence classes is an algorithm that identifies the patterns by traversing the lattice top down, and to improve processing speed uses an ID list that associate the customers until the transaction associated with each item, and that the two sequence x and y that are equivalent and an x dash that has been represented here. In the same cases, a breadth first search or a depth first search of the lattice that can be performed to enumerate the large sequence within each classes. The first step is to find out the frequent one sequence and the frequent two sequence that can be found interestingly intersecting the ID list for the frequent one sequence, and the equivalence classes belongs here, and that is of theta for theta 1 that can be determined, and Spade successfully finds all frequent sequence in only 3 databases that scenes and has been shown to outperform other algorithm for identifying the frequent sequence. And in the difference towards the algorithm, if I'm talking about where the input is your D and S, that D is representing the ID list for the customer transaction and S is your support. Output will find out if there is a frequent sequence, and a Spade algorithm is to determine the frequent item set item, which is F1, and to determine the frequent two that is sequences, which is your F2, and find equivalence classes that belongs to all one sequences, and find frequent that is the sequence F as well. Now we'll discuss about more detail in it, that is to explain temporal association rule. In the temporal association rule, if I'm talking about here, at a transaction that can be viewed as with the association rule here, and where TID and is the ID for transaction, and CID is the ID for the customer, and I1 till IM that are items here. But according to the temporal database, a transaction that could be viewed here, and where I here that is a valid time range for the transaction, and if the transaction is represented the products over the web, then of course T might be the time of the order was placed, and the TC that might be the time actual delivery was made. And when the time is added to the concept of association rule, that the different types of the rule that may be generated is the inter-transaction rule, episode rule, trend dependencies, and of course the sequence association rule, and of course that is your calendric association rule as well. Now we'll discuss about the inter-transaction rule here in a detail. In the here that inter-transaction rule, that the basic association rule that approaches look only at items occurring together within one transaction, and these may be perceived as an intra-transaction association rule as well. Now the second one which will go ahead with this, that is your episode rule. In episode rules here, that an episode rule is a generalizations of the association rule that apply to a sequence of events, and events that sequence S is an order list of events and each one occurring at a particular time. An episode rule is an amplification of the form that is B and that is greater than A, where B and A are the episodes of B and sub episodes of A. An episode rule that can be used to solve the problem like failure of switching node. We of the first will talk about like given a set of the subseries S M and that of an episode, and S as to be defined by a window W, and that support of an episode B. S of B, that is a percentage of the total subseries in the BW, and that have S as a sub episode as well. We'll talk about in a detail which is the confidence alpha that is of an episode rule B that tends to A as is the ratio of the support of A that to support of B, and that has been represented by S of A upon S of B. Now I'll talk about the third one, which is the trend dependencies. In the trend dependencies here, they are like association rule in that they compare attribute value, but they do so over time, and that let R be the schema containing the attribute A1, A2 till AM, and that the domain for each attribute, which is if A of I, that must be totally ordered set. And a trend dependencies is an application of the form X tends to Y, where X and Y are the patterns over the schema R, and a trend dependencies is also subject to a support and a confidence, and given the two relations, which is I1 and I2 over a schema R, that support is for a trend dependencies which X tends to Y is the percentage of the tuple pairs here, and that to satisfy the pattern X and Y as well. Where in the same cases, now we'll go ahead with the references that the confidence of the trend dependencies X and Y is the ratio of the number of the tuples pair, and that satisfies X and Y, the number of the satisfied X here. Now we'll talk about another one, which is the fourth one, and that is your sequence association rule. Sequence association rule here, that is given a set of the items which is I, that is equals to I1 I2 till IM, and a set of a transaction grouped by a customer in a customer sequence, and a sequence association rule in an amplification of the form where S tends to T, and that is where S and T are the sequence, and the support for this is a percentage of a customer that contain S and T as well, where the confidence for S and T is the ratio of the number of the customers that contains both S and T to the numbers that contain S as well. The fifth one we have is that is calendric association rule. So in this, that given a set of an items, that is I equals to I1 I2 till IM, and a set of transaction D where T1 T2 and Tn, and a time of unit K, and a calendar C, where that a calendric association is an association rule which extends to Y, and that occurs in D of K as well. So here we'll end up with this. And first of all, we had completed your unit 1, unit 2, unit 3 and unit 4, and as well as unit 5. In the next coming class, we'll discuss about that is the short possible answers, possible questions that can be asked of 2 marks of unit 1, unit 2, unit 3 and unit 4. So now in this, that unit 1 we had covered up the data warehousing, where we had covered up the overview definitions, data warehousing, components, building and data warehouse, warehouse database, mapping the data warehouse to the multiprocessor architecture, different between a database system and a data warehouse, multidimensional data models, data cubes, stars, snowflakes, stack constellation, concept hierarchy, process architecture and 3-tier architecture, data marting as well. In unit 2, we had covered up the data warehouse process and technology, where we had covered up the warehousing strategies, warehouse management and support process, warehouse planning and implementation, hardware and operating system for the data warehousing, client server computing models and the data warehouse, parallel processors and cluster system, distributed BMS implementation, warehousing software, warehouse schema designs, data and extraction, cleanup and transformation tool, warehouse metadata as well. In unit 3rd, we had covered up the data mining and reduction, which is the overview, motivation, definitions and functionalities, data processing, form of the data pre-processing, data cleaning, missing values, noisy data, binning, clustering, regression, computer and a human inspection, inconsistent data, data integration, transformation, data reduction, data cube aggregation, dimensionality reduction, data compression, numerosity reduction, discretization, and concept hierarchy generations and decision tree as well. And the next we had done your unit 4, which is your comes under in it, that is your classification, definition, data generalization, analytical characterization, analysis of attribute relevance, mining class comparison, statistical measures in the large database, statistical based algorithm, and as well as we had done the distance based algorithm, decision time based algorithm, clustering we had done, which is introduction, similarities and distance measure, Q and chameleon, density based method, which is degree scan, optics, grid based method, stink click, model based method, statistical approach, association rule, introduction, large item set, basic algorithm, parallel and distributed algorithm, neural network approach as well. In unit 5, which we had covered up in this class, that is your aggregation, historical instruments, information query facilities, OLAP function and tools, OLAP servers, ROLAP, MOLAP, OLAP, data mining interface, security, backup and recovery, tuning, that is data warehouse, testing data warehouse, warehousing application, recent trends, types of warehousing application, web mining, special mining and temporal mining as well, that we had end up with this. And first of all, it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. And you will be going ahead, we are dealing with a data warehouse and data mining, reasoning, as well as your computer graphics, managerial economics, quantitative aptitude, and many more to go with this. And stay tuned with us. Thank you, hope you enjoy with this video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and give a suggestion on the comment box. Please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many maximum people can get the information at once. Thank you, hope you enjoy this video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and give a suggestion on the comment box. Thank you.